Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Ali Hasnain again with you at Hasnain Taqvi, and our today's talk is on tenses, their sequence and their right use. Apparently a very simple area, but somehow we tend to make mistakes on that, probably because we have not really understood their application. We understand the rules, though I would refresh those too, because almost in every entry test you have sentences grammatically incorrect, tense-wise incorrect. So this quick review of tenses and their right use would enable you to handle any question, inshallah, that pertains to this domain. So let's begin. Essentially, tense means time. And time references are three. Supposedly this is where we are present. If this arrow is heading towards this, that would become past, and this would be termed as future. Alright? In present you have four time references. One is without any specific time. This is called present simple. Then in that domain, if there is some activity going on, that is called continuous. Now, if an action has reached here, this is perfect. And if after even reaching this destination, it still moves on to future, this is perfect, or not future, like after completion it still goes on, that is perfect continuous. So you would see these four shades in every time reference, be it past or future. Now, to begin with, first we deal with the four structures of present tense. I write the rule first. It is subject plus verb, and this verb has to be V1 in present simple. So when we are talking about present simple, our positive statement is with first form of verb, which obviously gets affected by the subject, S or ES. So if I say he eats mangoes, this is our positive statement. To make it interrogative, we use do or does. In this case, since the subject is singular, we say, does he eat mangoes? Now, for a negative statement, we would say, he doesn't eat mangoes. There are double interrogative, like we may say, why doesn't he eat mangoes? That is basically what ETA students require more at MTCAT, and then again for entry tests that are conducted by NUST or PIAS. There the level is with reference to clue words. So unless you know when you require to use this tense, you would not really be on sure footing. So to help you on that account, let's talk about the different structures where you require present simple tense. Anywhere where you are dealing with any habitual action, you have to employ this particular tense. Like habitual actions have such adverbs usually, daily, usually, it could have like often. So any habitual action that you are referring to, like I sleep late daily, I usually stay awake at night. So I stay awake. Why? Because the expression usually is there. Any habitual action, you refer to this rule that present simple verb is to be implied. Now, apart from this habitual, there are general truths. Whenever you are implying any general truth, you require this tense. No other tense can convey your sense than God is one. Now, when we are using this be form without any other verb structure, this is linking verb and it is present simple. So God is one. We cannot say God was one because that would disturb the real concept. God has been one obviously cannot be stated. The only tense that can do justice with general truths, that is this: honesty is the best policy. So remember, even for quotations, general truths, you stick to present simple. Then exclamatory sentences, not all, those that begin with expressions such as here or there. Now, this expression is of this kind. You must have heard of that statement: here lies the man who knew nothing but the truth. Here lies the man who knew nothing but truth. This lies, present simple choice, is dictated by the use of here. Here he comes, here the bus comes, there she goes. So with exclamatory sentences that begin with here or there, you cannot use any other tense. Your examiner, for example, may say, here has been the trouble. Now he has used a present perfect tense. With here, it should not be like that. Here is the trouble. So present simple is needed. Another use of this structure is for vivid narration. Any vivid narrative, that means historical talk when you are engaging in, you can convert that, though there is this preferable tense of past simple with which you go for storytelling, but vivid narrative creates life in that event. Like normally we would say, Akbar came to Delhi, he established his court, he summoned his loyal courtiers. The same in vivid narrative would be, Akbar comes to Delhi, he establishes his court and summons his courtiers. So every time we are using that present simple for added impact, which is called vivid narrative. Apart from that, you may also use this tense to express future events. Normally we use future simple for future event, but to express future events that are scheduled. Planned or scheduled, you require this present simple tense. For an example, let's say we leave for railway station at 7 tomorrow. Despite having this expression there, this has not literally done anything wrong with the structure because the event is planned. So when you have a planned event, you can always use this structure, sticking to those expressions. The train leaves at 7 in the evening. So the train leaves at, present simple is perfectly acceptable there. Then to express, let's say, some wise sayings to sort of quote, like Keats says, a thing of beauty is a joy forever. Our beauty is only skin deep. Such quotations when you are coming up with, obviously the only choice with you is sticking to present simple tense. You already are aware of the first conditional, where we have sequence of tenses. One in if clause is present simple, and then your independent clause goes into future simple. You cannot put if clause into any other tense but present when you have future simple and independent clause. If it rains, I'll not go there. So this structure you must be familiar with. This permits present simple tense only. There is one more area where you have to sort of use this tense. That is I was forgetting. It's sense verb actually. When you have sense verbs, what are the sense verbs? Like seems, appears, looks, feels, etc. When you are implying sense verbs in their literal structure, like it only provokes your sense, then you use present simple only. You cannot say he is tasting, or the dish is tasting, let's say. Good. You need to say the dish tastes good. No, even adverb cannot be used. Adjective instead is the requirement with sense verbs, and we use present simple tense there. This is about present simple. Now moving to the next tense, which is present continuous. You know the rules. Subject plus is, am, are plus V1 plus ing. So like he is eating mangoes. Is eat V1 ing. So rules are adhered to. This is a positive statement. For interrogative, is he eating mangoes? For a negative sentence, he is not eating mangoes. And for double interrogative, is he not eating mangoes? Or you may even say, isn't he eating mangoes? This structure is to be implied in such situations where you are talking about a continuous action, and you may have even the expression now there. Even without that, when you get to know that this action is going on, you use this tense. So I would say, like even this sentence serves here, he is eating mangoes, means at that time he is busy doing that. We may write another sentence here. He is writing now. So at that very moment when this is being stated, the activity is in continuous form going on. Another sense that you imply here for this structure, that is temporary action. When I say temporary action, That means at that very moment it may not be happening, but it actually deals with the kind of activity that man is busy in during those days. So if I say that is I am watching, what is it called, orthogonal. So right now I am not doing that, but this temporary action which is happening these days can be referred to through present continuous tense. For that matter, you may even say reading, any writer you may name, let's say David Copperfield. You are not busy doing this right now, but it is referring to a temporary action which is going on. So that is its second use. The third essentially is when an action is arranged to take place in future. Remember, in present simple we talked about a scheduled event where we were using present simple, like the train leaves at 7 in the evening. Here this is not scheduled, this is arranged. Like I say again, you won't have exact time referred to. My friend is arriving tomorrow. So this sense where you are talking with reference to an arranged program, you use this continuous tense. This is like one of the commonly used structures for such actions. Then if you are like even arranging to leave to Karachi, I am going to Karachi tomorrow. So you use the same continuous form for that purpose. Another thing that we talked about was with reference to habitual actions. If you remember, I said for habitual actions you stick to present simple. Yes, very right, you have to use present simple. But if that particular habitual action has a bit of obstinacy in it, like deviation of the kind that cannot be settled, let me give you some example to make you understand use of present continuous for habitual actions. Like my dog is silly. He is running out into the road every time. See, he is running out into the, this has given an added shade to our meanings. That means that this dog, despite training, is not learning the art. It is habitual action. It could have been said he runs out, but in this case where you are highlighting a situation and showing the habit of a determined kind and obstinate kind, your preferable choice should be present continuous. Now we move to the third tense of present, that is present perfect. The rules I would like to give again for your better understanding, and it is like with subject you use has or have plus V3. He has eaten mangoes. So this subject which required has, not have, with that we used V3, and that is your present perfect. Now its application. This present perfect tense should be used with expressions that have just in them. Like I say, he has just gone out. You cannot say he is just going out. You should not say he goes out just. This clue just gives you this understanding that present perfect tense should be implied here. Then, with past actions, whose time of happening is not given. So actions are pertaining to the past, but the exact time or time of that occurrence is not mentioned. You use this present perfect tense there. Some examples. Let's say, have you read this book? When he has read that, we don't know. So what we have done is, we have used this interrogative form, or you can see it's a past action that we have referred to. Then if I say, have you been to Karachi? If he has been to Karachi, obviously it would have been an action of the past. But what we are talking in terms of is present perfect. Why present perfect? This been is used there, but after been there is no third form verb. So this was V3 and this is has have use. So rules are that of present perfect tense, and you are referring to an action of the past through this tense. Next point that you need to bear in mind, here are some other areas where present perfect tense should be used. Past events for their present effect. If I say, I have cut my finger, this is the right use. It also means that something is happening now, like it is bleeding. So this continuous action of present is described through have and V3. I have cut my finger, I have finished reading this. So whatever present effect that you want to show with reference to a completed action in the recent past, that can be done through present perfect. Then past action continuing up to the present. Past perfect continuous takes you into future, like that action continues and time to come. But this is completed only recently to that level, and there you can use this with obviously since or for. Time reference comes there. Most often since for we stick to using present perfect continuous, or for that matter any perfect continuous tense. But see these expressions here. I have known him for a long time. So this person is an acquaintance, has been a friend, and to this level in the recent time, much time has lapsed. So I have known him for a long time. This usage of present perfect is permitted under the rules. We have lived here for 10 years. You could also say we have been living here for 10 years, but that would have meant something different. That means you were still living there and you highlighted the time that has already been spent. This only highlights to that present moment for 10 years. Completion of this action is highlighted through this present perfect tense. It is like past action to the present moment. Certain adverbs that you see here and adverb phrases, there you use present perfect tense. Never or ever, when you have to use an interrogative sentence, like never has he done that. Now after never, you are sticking to the rules of present perfect in interrogative form. Again, if you see for negative and for interrogative, these expressions of adverbial nature, if you come across, you make up your mind that your sentence has to be in present perfect. Like if I say negative, he has not done it so far. So far has demanded present perfect tense. We have not reached there till now. So till now has provoked you to go for present perfect tense. Like even interrogative can be made through such structures, like you may say, yet he, interrogative version, hang on, cut. उससे शुरू करेंगे कि इंट्रोगेटिव भी इससे बनाया जा सकता है. बल्कि उसको भी छोड़ दें, इसको रोक देते हैं, यहाँ पे सिर्फ यही कर देते हैं, इंट्रोगेटिव वाला वर्जन निकाल देते हैं. अब इसकी बात करते हैं. 3, 2, 1. These expressions already today, this week, this month, etc. When you come across those in your written expression, you should be mentally clear that the tense requirement is that of present perfect. We have done it already. We have left this place today. We should complete our, no, not should, we have completed our task this week. They have gained victory this month. So every time you come across any of these expressions, you use present perfect tense. Present perfect continuous tense, now let's talk about that. Three, two, one. Now let's see how present perfect continuous tense is constituted. Subject, either you use after that has been or have been, plus V1 ing. Then you require the use of since or for. Remember, since is for point of time and for is for period of time. So we would say since morning, since childhood, since yesterday, since 8 o'clock, etc. This is starting time only. So you don't have the rounded bracket of beginning and ending. Whereas for is for a period specific, like 2 years, for 2 years, for a decade, for an hour. Hopefully you understand the right use of since and for. Now this present perfect continuous in terms of interrogative, imperative, if you have any problem, do ask, but not a problem really. Like if I say he has been eating mangoes for 15 minutes, has he been eating mangoes for, he has not been eating mangoes. Why has he been eating mangoes? So those structures are not tough to handle. Let's talk about their application. Only two. One, I told you that this section is perfected to a level and still goes on. So when I say he has been teaching at Saint Avian for 6 years. Now for is used because of this period of time. Has been and teach and ing. Now this actually means 6 years have been completed and he is still a teacher there. It could have 7th, 8th onwards years to mention. This is one use. There's another that you need to bear in mind, that an action which is already finished you simply want to highlight its impact. There again you require present perfect continuous. Like somebody asks you, why are your clothes wet? Now in order to answer that, this action of getting your clothes wet has already been completed. Now the impact you have to show why, as to why. You would say, I have been washing or servicing my car. This expression is in present perfect continuous. Why? Because you wanted to talk about an action of recent past and its effect on you. So these are some of the applications that you need to bear in mind. We will next talk about past tenses. Dear students, let's move towards past tenses now. They are easy to use. When I say past tenses, that means again 4 times. Let's begin with past simple. You know, it is simply with whatever the subject, irrespective of that, use of V2. That is second form of the verb. Past simple tense, why is it used? There are certain cases that you need to bear in mind to be able to use it correctly. Remember I told you in expressions that carry this time period, like in 1971, Pakistan disintegrated. So in such expressions where you are referring to some time bracket with this preposition in, you use V2, that is past simple. Fall of Dhaka occurred in 1971. So wherever it occurs, you have to stick to past simple, one case. The second, expressions that carry adverbs or adverb phrases. Which are there, like yesterday or ago, last year, etc. When you find any such expression in a given sentence, you should be clear it's past simple. So you have a sentence of the kind, I went there yesterday. Third case, where these expressions don't occur, yet there is this implied time reference. Then again, your choice should be past simple. I give you an example. If I say, I didn't sleep well, that means last night. Or I didn't talk to him. Again, there is this reference that only recently, in the recent past. Another case where this tense is required, that is to refer to past habits. Habits in general are discussed in present simple tense. But if there is a habit that somebody stuck to in past and you have to refer to that, no harm in using past simple. Rather, you need to use that tense. For example, he studied many hours every day. Again, if I say she always carried an umbrella. So obviously, thereby we are referring to a past habit and we are implying past simple tense. Apart from that, past simple tense is also used in sequence of tenses. If you remember that particular structure in conditional tenses that I gave you, it was probably second conditional, where you used if. Let's say if he ate well, he would feel better. So this ate well with if clause is a must, where you are using would V1. You already are familiar with this structure. These past tenses in the process I would show you are required at many other places. But let's move to the second structure, which is talking about past continuous tense, knowing the formula, an activity which went on in the past that requires was verb plus first form verb ing. See here, for a new action, if you see these two clauses here, I was reading, the light went out. This is implying past simple. This is implying past continuous. Please learn this rule. Whenever you have two actions and your one action actually deals with a stretched action, like the one which continues for longer duration, and the other instantly happens while you were doing something else. There you require for the longer action past continuous, and for the instant action past simple. So the light went out while I was reading. You cannot say the light was going out while I read. Obviously light just went out, and then you were doing something at that time. See the second sentence with when I saw him. So V2, this is instant action. He was playing chess. At that particular moment, he was busy doing something when you did something. So you simply have to determine which action is of shorter duration and which is of longer duration. The one that has longer duration, that goes into continuous structure, past continuous, if past is the requirement there, and the one which is instant, for that you use past simple. Here I would like to tell you, like when we were dealing with past tenses, there are certain structures that begin with as if, as though, wish, and would that. See, if I say when Alina saw the elephant, she was amazed. This is only passive structure, past simple. You have past simple here, you have past simple here. Why? Because these are simultaneous actions. It was instantly the feeling, the moment she saw that. So whenever you have two tenses of the same time, you can always stick to past simple, like it happens in storytelling. You narrate the entire event through past simple. But when you have as if or as though expressions, there are two types of errors that we tend to commit. One, we may say he acts like a fool acts. Remember, you have a clause here. When you have a clause, you don't use like. You instead go for as if he were, not was, as if he were a fool. So as if structure requires be form in subjunctive mode, were, not was, as was the case with conditional tenses. This acts could be changed, like it may be he acted as if he. Now you have two options. You can obviously still say as if he were a fool, but that preference wise is your second choice. Your first choice should be, by virtue of seeing the verb in past here, he acted as if he had been a fool. Now this as if structure, when your verb in the independent clause is present simple, you have were option, you don't say had been. But when it is in past simple, then you have both these options. This one is preferable. You can replace as if with as though. He acts as though he were a fool. Again, the rules remain the same. He acted as though he were a fool, or he acted as though he had been a fool. This wish structure, whenever you use this, wish I were a bird. So you bring in past simple, but subjunctive form of verb. I normally takes I was, but in such structures where you are using wish, you use subjunctive form. Yes, if it is another verb, ordinary verb, wish he left earlier, then you use V2. So past simple is used with wish. And if it is would that, it is again a wish. Would that he were rich. So we are using the same preferably. You can obviously again go for had been in both these structures, would that and wish, but your preferable choice is were. Moving back to this past continuous, there are two other expressions that at times trouble you. So let's learn those two. One is the use of before in sequence of tenses. The other is after. When you have before in a clause, before he or before I read this, we are sticking to past simple. This is V2, okay? I had not gone through anything or any novel. So with reference to the structure before, you have V2 in that clause and then independent clause. When instead you have after, there are two things that you need to understand. One, you have to judge in that particular expression that carries after whether there is a phrase or a clause. Like if I say after his marriage, now this is a phrase. There is no finite verb here. Now you cannot move to past perfect. You instead stick to past simple. After his marriage, he went to Karachi or shifted to Karachi. But if there is a clause, that clause, because it talks about an action which had already been completed, you have to make sure that this clause has past perfect tense in it. After he had married, because otherwise the sense would not pop out. After he had married, he shifted to Karachi. I believe you have understood the idea. This occurred first, then he took this decision and moved elsewhere. If we instead say after he married, he shifted to Karachi, the actions remain focused on the same time, whereas after shows that one thing happened later than the other. So we have to use in after structure had, whereas in before structures it was V2. Now talking more about the types of past tenses, like two things already pointed out. New action, for that you use past simple, and especially that new action, if it is of shorter duration, you have to stick to past simple. Then persistent habits in the past, something which keeps happening, and habits normally we have talked in terms of present simple tense, but persistent habits in the past can always be referred to through this tense. Let me give you some example. He was, see, past continuous. He was continuously or continually, in this case, let's say continually, grumbling about his job. Now, was grumbling, past continuous, and why? Because a thing in the past and the habit of a kind which is secondary to his nature, even if there is this always, the tense remains the same. He was always grumbling about his job. See this past perfect, had written. This action was completed in the remote past. Expression of before here, we have V2 there. Before he arrived, I had written the letter. So that what happened first. For that, obviously you have to assign past perfect, and you have understood the rule already with before structures, V2. In conditionals, like this is third conditional, you remember past perfect is used there with if clauses, and in independent clauses you have would have and V3. So you need to see every time there is any such structure, you have to apply the rules of conditional tenses. Past perfect is simply like had plus V3. So he had eaten mangoes. But since it is mostly coupled up with other tenses, you need to prepare specifically on different combinations in this regard. With reference to past perfect continuous, as is the case with present perfect continuous, an action to an extent is completed and it still moves on to the next time period. So when I say at that time, he had been writing a novel, since and for or must here, time references there. So 3 months, and it may take more months. So referring to a time frame, talking in terms of an activity that completed itself to a level but went into further time bracket, and thereby use of for and time period. This is past perfect continuous, which is very rarely used. Essentially you need to learn this past perfect tense with reference to those expressions that I gave you. Future tenses next we discuss about in brief, so that you have a proper review of all tenses. Let's discuss them. See students, future tenses, simple. The way to formulate this, subject plus shall will plus V1. He will eat mangoes. Why is this tense used? Let's see. To express future as a fact. I have given you an example. It states, I shall be 50 next Saturday. So this is a fact that would take place in future. For that, what am I doing? Using future simple. Don't confuse this be with continuous structure. It is actually use of shall and then V1, base form of verb. Is, am, are, present forms, was, were, past form, and been, its participial or perfect form. So next is noun. If instead here had been I shall be going, then it would have been a future continuous tense. In this case it is future simple. So why are we implying it? Because we are expressing a fact that is to take place in future. It will be Muharram in a month. So about future, a fact discussed through future simple. Another option when you apply this tense, to talk about what we think or believe will happen in future. It's like prediction kind. You know, with think and such words, suppose and believe, you use present simple. Then again for sense verbs you use present simple. But this goes on. I think our team will win the match. So you have two clauses here. With this expression, your belief is there about some future happening. What you are doing is implying the structure of future simple. Our team will win the match. Now, see this one. These words, as I told you, they require use in present simple. I think, I expect, I believe, probably our team will win. Whenever you employ any of these words, your next tense has to be future simple. Another place where you use this tense is when a sentence that you have decided. We also use this future simple tense, especially when we have mentally decided as to what to do next. So at the time of speaking, if I am confident that this is my plan of action, then I employ future simple. See, something is happening, that is present continuous, and now you have decided that what you will do. For that you are using future simple. It is raining, I will take an umbrella. Even if it is not raining, I will take an umbrella. So you have decided to do something. For that, future simple. Instead of this future simple, at times going to expression is used. That also highlights future time. When to use this? Again, when you are very much clear, decided, before talking about some decision. Somebody asks you, have you decided what to do? You respond, yes, I'm going to join Hasnain Taqvi. Yes, I'm going to resign this job. No. Now when you say no, I will decide it, then you have to use future simple. If you are clear as to what next, then you can apply this structure too. Moving on to this likely or certain action. See, something is there, the board is full of water. Now what is ultimate result of such a happening? You know it. Again you use going to, because this is a decided fate for this boat now, because it is full of water. It is going to sink. So this is how you use going to. Let's talk about the next tense now. That is future continuous. And you know the rules. They are plain. Will be, shall be, V1 plus ing. I shall be eating a mango. In different structures you can always convert it. Like I shall not be eating a mango. Shall I be eating a mango? Why shall I be eating a mango? That is what you already understand. This future continuous is for progressive action, and that has to relate to future time. Otherwise progressive action is discussed in continuous tense of present maybe. But in this case, when you are thinking about future and some action at that time going on, like I suppose by virtue of these words that I gave you here, you have to use present simple here. Now next clause, that is implying the rules of future continuous. Why? Because this is the progressive action expected by the speaker. I suppose it will be raining when we start. So when we start, again that point when two sentences, they both cannot be put into future version. The way they say, when the sun rises, it will be a lovely sight. You cannot say when the sun will rise, it will be a lovely sight. One has to go into present structure. So when we start, it will be raining. My dear students, heading towards the end of this debate, see, we were discussing in terms of future continuous. For already planned actions in the future, we are using this will be, staying, stay, ing, will be, shall be, for what? The action that has been planned in future. I will be staying here till Monday. He will be meeting us next week. So it's a planned program which is being referred to through future simple, or not simple, rather future continuous. He will be meeting us next week. Our next tense is future perfect. The rules are plain. Will have, shall have as per subject, and then third form of verb. You have some examples here. I shall have written my exercise by then. So you are talking about a completed action in a future time. For that you are using future perfect. In sequence of tenses, when you have these structures when, before, especially with stipulated time and some other action going on at that time or completing itself. See here, when you go to see him, one action, present simple. In conditionals we did talk about that. Our other action was to be in future perfect. When you go to see him, he will have left. When you reach a college of your ambition or dream, you will have satisfied yourself. So it is in future, being able to reach some destination as has something to do with your perfect future feelings. This is interchangeable. Whether you say when you go to see him or you say before you go to see him, doesn't matter. What matters is that with such structures, you have to use will have, shall have and third form verb. And the last tense, future perfect continuous. Like all perfect continuous tenses, it requires the use of since, for. Before that, it is like will have, been, shall have been, plus V1, ing and since for. Why do we need this tense? Again, it is not commonly used, but if there be a situation where you have to talk about a progressive action and which goes on for a period of time and has to end in the future, then you require this structure. Like by next March, a phrase, we are using some time frame in future which has yet not been reached. By that time we have to do something. So with these expressions you require shall have been, will have been, and then first form verb ing and since for. So by next March we shall have been living here for 5 years. Or for that matter, I shall have been teaching, that's a fact again by the way, but this fact is attained in next August. So my choice of tense is future perfect continuous. Because I still intend to continue in this profession. I shall have been teaching for 23 years next August. That was, dear students, the basic review of tenses and all the problems that relate themselves to these structures. If you understand this and you practice on that, could inshallah be very easily handled by all of you. Best of luck till next time. Allah Hafiz.